Now for our third presenter. The word is that jellyfish numbers are increasing, or they're decreasing. Or perhaps we live in a three bears kind of world, and they're just the same. Our next guest, Dr. Condon, is particularly interested in jellyfish blooms and whether they are increasing in magnitude and extent globally, and how jellyfish respond to human influences, always something that we're interested in, such as climate change, and what is their role in the food webs. And that's not just for making noodles with various sauces. Rob is a senior research scientist at the Dauphin Island Sea Lab in Alabama, and when he speaks, you'll know he's from Alabama right away. And he's the lead principal investigator at NC's Global Jellyfish Working Group, the people that are bringing us this tonight. And recently he's been working on the effects of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill on food webs and on carbon cycles. Rob?
Good evening, everyone. Michael told a bit of a fib. I don't really have a southern accent. I'm actually from Australia. So coming from Australia and living 5 minutes from the beach, I've always been fascinated with the ocean and in particular jellyfish. And like many people here, I've always been drawn to jellies while scuba diving or viewed them when they're washed up on beaches. And I remember in undergrad at college on the train rides to and from Melbourne each day, I would read science papers about jellies, many written by many of my friends and colleagues here in this room tonight. And it was then I quickly realized that there was very little known about jellies. And more importantly, what the effects are of jellyfish blooms in the ocean. And so for tonight, looking back, what can we really say about jellyfish blooms 17 years later? Now, whether it be the invasion of the giant jellyfish in Japan, the clogged fishing nets that Carly and Kathy spoke about, or the huge black jellyfish that appear here in Santa Barbara, to comb jellies that have invaded all throughout Europe, and even as recent as last Saturday, where 10,000 moon jellyfish are washed up on San Francisco beaches. We know very little about how and why these blooms form. But there are many scientists that believe that jellyfish are increasing worldwide, in coastal areas and also in the most remote areas in the middle of the oceans. And to confuse matters, there are those people that also believe the opposite, that blooms have in fact decreased or there's been no change at all. But really, when you're just looking at the data that's available, the bottom line is that we really don't know and we're still trying to figure it out. Naturally, jellyfish have captured the imagination of the public at large, and jellyfish are a hot topic and a popular commodity in media and TV, while children are exposed to jellyfish through popular shows such as SpongeBob SquarePants. The media thrive with dramatic front-page headlines, usually depicting jellyfish in a negative way. And this has resulted in global media reports and articles on jellies over the past decade, clearly outpacing actual science research by about as much as 25 articles to 1. So this begs the question, is the media driving our perception on jellyfish, or is this really occurring? So which is it? Is it a decrease, an increase, or has there been no change at all? Well, knowing which case is correct is important because, as Kylie just mentioned, jellyfish, in addition to being just beautiful animals, are a really good indicator of the health and state of our oceans. And this has consequences for many things, such as managing our fisheries and tourism, as Kylie presented. And so there are really important feedbacks for us as a society as well. So yes, it's important to ask the question, but it's more important to actually get the question of, is there an increase in jellyfish correct? Well, various reasons have been put forward to explain an increase in jellyfish, and many of them are clearly driven by the practices that we do on an everyday basis as humans. And I'm only going to mention briefly two here. The first is probably very familiar to most people in this room, that's climate change. So to cut a long story short, we as humans have greatly increased the input of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere through our everyday practices, and this has resulted in increased ocean temperatures over the past 50 years. And it's thought that this might actually favour the jellyfish. As Kathy mentioned before, there are various reproductive stages to a jellyfish life cycle. And it turns out that these are really controlled in the large extent by temperature. So you might think that the warmer it is, the more jellyfish that the polyps, that's the benthic stage that Kathy spoke about before, the more jellyfish they can produce that can subsequently form blooms. So with climate change, you might expect more jellyfish everywhere, right? But in many areas, such as right here off the coast of California and in Chesapeake Bay, jellies have in fact decreased or shown no change at all. So this clouds our interpretation. Overharvesting of fish is another potential cause for an increase in jellyfish blooms. The jellies and many fish are thought to be in direct competition for food with each other. So if you remove the fish through fishing activities, then this actually might allow the jellyfish to prosper because they don't have a competitor there. And this has clearly occurred in some areas. It might have occurred in Japan with the giant jellies. But in other fish areas that are heavily fished, this is not the case. And the classic example is here in the Bering Sea, which is a very important fishery ground. And during the late 1990s, there was a big, huge increase in jellyfish. But this was quickly followed by a rapid drop-off after 2000, almost back to baseline levels. And this is despite continued fishing practices in that area. So does this simply mean that jellyfish naturally rise and fall over long time scales, or is the increase really happening? So you can see when you start to really look at these case-by-case examples, the question of have jellyfish increased is not a simple one to answer, at least on a global scale. And just remembering that there are consequences to getting the actual question right. But while this question of increases in jellyfish is difficult to answer at this stage, I believe that we're on the right track, and the key to solving the problem really holds with most of these examples of jellyfish blooms that simply fluctuate through time. And so as we look more and more into how and why these jellyfish blooms evolve over time, we get a clearer picture of, on a global scale, of how they play in everyday ocean ecosystem. So what can we do about this? Well, as Stephanie mentioned before, from the scientific side, enter the National Centre of Ecological Analysis and Synthesis, or simply NCES, who have generally sponsored the formation of the Global Jellyfish Group, and in fact this event as well. So it's located in downtown Santa Barbara on State Street in the Balboa building. Many of you who frequent the Banana Republic, you're in the right area if you hit that. If you mention the Jelly Working Group, you get a 20% discount tomorrow. And this, the Jelly Working Group is meeting for the third time. We've been busy gathering as many data sets and information as possible on jellyfish, trying to build a historical fingerprint of jellyfish blooms through time, but more importantly, trying to cast what's going to happen in the future. It's been clearly a challenging project to date, and no one said it was going to be an easy thing to solve, but definitely NCES is the right place to do it. But you, the community, can also play an important role and play a key part in the science by reporting your sightings, for instance, visiting the jellywatch.org website and reporting your sightings. And there's a display up the back there. You can talk to Steve about that afterwards. Or you can even start your own monitoring program, walking up and down the beach, down here at Stearns Wharf, just spotting jellies and reporting your events over time. It's a great way for the community to get involved in the science. And this is the Global Jelly Working Group. As you can see, it's clearly a global effort, as Michael mentioned before. And we're located and working in various areas of the world, ranging from the Antarctic to right in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean. And actually, I'd like to take this opportunity now to actually make you, the public, more aware of our Jelly Working Group and invite the group to stand up and show your... And on behalf of NCES and the Jelly Working Group, we want to thank everyone for coming tonight and being a part of this event. And we'd like to thank our sponsors that are listed in the program, and we look forward to talking to you all. Thank you very much for your attention.